Be the Good with Kate shows each of us how it is possible to find and follow our passions at any age. But not only that, we can do this while making the world a better place along the way. I'm Kate Chericello, and I'm on a mission to shine a light on the positive news all around us. I hope Be the Good with Kate inspires you to live your purpose and go out and be the good in the world. Guests have included a Broadway music director, ex-convict, hospital clown, nonprofit leaders, people who've lost those closest to them, people who have found their calling in their 60s, and my kindergarten teacher. Join me each week as I have the honor of sharing these stories with you. You can find Be the Good with Kate on all podcast platforms and YouTube. Subscribe there or go to katechericello.com/bethegood to be updated when new episodes are released.
Welcome back to Be the Good with Kate, where we talk to individuals who are following their passions and helping others along the way. And today, I'm so pleased to introduce you to Patti Meyer. She is CEO and founder of BizMagic. So here's a little bit about Patti before I pass it over to her. So BizMagic is a virtual business management solution where she and her team support female and gender-expansive entrepreneurs doing good in the world who feel overwhelmed by the back-end tech of their business and need help making it all hum. BizMagic creates, implements, and teaches the tweaks that help its clients make a bigger impact with less stress. And I know we all need a little less stress in our lives for sure. So Patti, thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Thanks. So I gave a little bit of background, but please tell everybody who you are and what you do in your own words.
Yeah, so I'm a bit of a business and tech nerd, and my passion is really helping people in their businesses, mostly women and gender expansive entrepreneurs. And a lot of that comes from just sort of the world of us kind of tearing each other down so much. And I'm just like, I'm not having that. I'm here to raise us up. And because there's a lot of shame in business, and especially being a woman in business, it can be really hard, and a lot of people feel overwhelmed and doing it all. And so I kind of fell into business and into this world, but I've always loved tech, and I've been building websites since the 90s when Yahoo would do like the little silly website builders and things like that. So so I've started this business, and it's now turned into kind of a small agency. I consider it more of a team than an agency because it's not faceless. That's really important to me. My team is very important to me. We really support women in doing the tech in their business and the systems, and anything I can and anything we can to really help their business move forward and grow, so they feel less alone while they're in this journey that is pretty rough sometimes.
Well, going back to the 90s, you were so far ahead of me. We had just gotten a computer hand-me-down from my grandpa, who was way more ahead of tech than anyone else in our family. And I remember the little floppy disks. I mean, they were very basic back then. So tell me more about your path to creating BizMagic, because you had this passion obviously there for tech and helping along the way.
Yeah. So, and actually, I always thought that I was going to be a psychologist, and that was really what I was like, this is my calling. Well, actually, to either teach for a long time, and then it was psychology. So essentially helping people in some way, right? And I kind of do both of those now in a lot of ways in my business. But so I really felt that that was my calling. But after high school was not my jam. I didn't enjoy it. It was challenging for me because I was very introverted, and so I just sort of got into retail and started doing kind of that type of work, and moved really quickly into management because I always like being behind the scenes. And in high school, I did theater tech, again, more of the tech. I did lighting and things like that. So I was really drawn to behind the scenes stuff. So I always wanted to figure out how things worked and how was the business working. And so after a handful of years in retail management, they were all corporations. I'm like, the corporations are not for me. I don't fit in that kind of mold. And so I left that, and I started working at a nonprofit theater in San Francisco. And it was like a lot of solo performance. And so the community was phenomenal. And the stories that were being told were just changing and cathartic for so many people that would watch them in the audiences. And I would run the shows. So I would get to sort of be a part of this experience that people would have as they followed these performers. And I just loved it. But being kind of who I was, I ended up working as an operations manager in the theater and kind of running it. We had two venues, one in San Francisco, one across the bay in Berkeley. And so and each one had multiple performance spaces. So it was kind of a whole lot happening that I got to learn how to, hire people and train them and just learn all about that. And then at the same time, I was working for this woman who, because I worked at a nonprofit arts organization in San Francisco, I had to have a second job. And so I worked for this woman who's an entrepreneur. And so that's how I was doing both at the same time. And so I had this sort of entrepreneurship experience and this organizational business experience. And I did that for 10 years with both of them. And yeah, I went to school after that for psychology and made it through my AA. And then half my credits didn't transfer when I went to go move to my bachelor. So I moved to Texas because I'm from San Francisco. I moved to Texas so I could afford to have my own apartment and think crazy things like that. And half my credits didn't transfer. And I was like, you know what? I love business and I'm really good at it. And I love tech and I'd fallen in love with entrepreneurship at that point. And I'd been kind of helping people on the side to put myself through school. So I was just like, you know what? Let's do it. And so I started BizMagic. So I really just sort of fell into it. But now I get to teach people and help them and support them. And I've learned so much. I've had the business for 6.5 years. And so it was quite a journey.
It's funny though, you say you fell into it, and I'm hearing that everything led you to it, right?
Yes.
Your love of psychology, your love of business, your work in the nonprofit sector. I mean, it all comes together, especially with your focus on helping the entrepreneurs help both their own business and what they're doing, like furthering their missions, which I love. And anyone who's worked in nonprofits, of course, knows the mission focus and what's our mission. Thinking about it, psychology and business as these two pillars, you really can't do one without the other if you're going to do it well, right? Like, how can you be in business without the psychology and like how people work and interacting, and how can you work in psychology without knowing how to run your own business if you are going that route of being your own boss? So I love that you found both these routes. And I have to ask you, because you had mentioned that school wasn't your jam, but then you made the choice years later to go back to school. Yeah. Can you just hone in a little bit on that and like making that choice?
Yeah. So I hit this point in life in the theater, and actually in between both of these, I learned so much in those industries and specifically in those roles. But treatment of me and employees and them, it wasn't great. And there were moments that were great, but there was a lot there that was lacking. And so I hit this moment where I thought I was trying to kind of move out of it, but I was just basically suited at that point, I thought, to only be, and not, I don't mean only in this way, but to be in other just office management roles, which wasn't what made my heart sing, And so I wanted to be able to move past that. And that was the only path out that I saw at that point. And again, I still had this like, well, I'm supposed to be a psychologist. This is what I'm supposed to do. And so I went back, and so I was in my early 30s, I think, when I started, late 20s, early 30s. And so it was a whole different ballgame when you're an adult going to school. And I got straight A's and did amazing, and I loved it. It was so that just lit me up, and I was so happy, and I loved every second of it. So I was ready to go, but I think that go on to my bachelor's, but I think I wasn't meant to go on to my bachelor's in that way. I think the success I'm having and the joy that I have and the the impact I'm making, like this is where I'm supposed to be, hands down. But I'm so grateful to have done that, and to go that route because it taught me a lot about myself. And that I was able to overcome a lot of because I had a lot of anxiety and things like that. So going into school and being in that and all these people all the time, it felt overwhelming. And so I was able to just sort of be like, I got this.
Isn't it funny how life works? I love that you shared that part of the story because I'm just hearing that, you had that, like you said, anxiety about what school was. And then it wasn't that at all this next time around.
Yeah.
And yet, even though you loved it, at the end of that chapter, you said, this isn't where I'm being called to go anymore. And
Yeah.
that was a big thing too, right? Especially if you've had it in your head for so long. Did that feel scary? What did it feel like to accept that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It didn't feel very scary because in that moment when I had that sort of clarity that I wanted to go down this path of business, that I think going down the path of starting my own business felt a little scary because I hadn't done that before, and I was just like, oh, all right, let's see what happens. But I wasn't afraid to step away from that because it just I think it was that moment of sometimes things are telling you something and you're like, but no, this is it though, right? And you just sort of have to be like, oh, all right, no, that's not it. And so it was really this moment of just that clarity and that letting go and saying, this is my path and I'm really into this. And I was able to see how I could help people in a different way. Um, that fed my organizational skills and my tech nerd skills. And I wouldn't have been able to do any of that in psychology in the way that I was imagining. So it really opened up a whole new world for me. And so the scary part was just in starting a business and going down that road of not knowing what I was doing really in that in that way and not knowing if it would work or, you know.
And you did it. It
I did it.
worked.
It worked. Yeah, I have a team of 15 of us now and it's yeah, it worked. It's very
So then
exciting.
what is the most surprising aspect to you where you are right now?
I think that it's worked as well as it has. I think that um that it fills me so much. And I think that the good that I'm doing and the impact that I have, I don't even think I realized until I really started getting into this, the impact that somebody in my role, right? My role is to help people with the tech in their business and the struggles and where the mindset sticks sometimes, even though not a coach, you still end up in that role when you're helping somebody. And so I don't think I realized the struggle that business owners had and how my past experiences and working with solo performers, right, nurturing them when they're preparing for a show and feeling nervous, and where I was their main person because I didn't have a cast. And so being in that role and then being able to kind of parlay that into being the support role for people in their businesses, I didn't realize the impact that that would have. And there are some people that I talk to them and they're crying because they're just so frustrated, and they get to walk out of meetings with me and I get to walk out of meetings with them being like, oh, I feel so much better. And I feel, because they know that some of this stuff that they're feeling overwhelmed by is taken care of. And like I said, because there's so much shame and it's so hard in business, right? There's this idea in business that if you don't know how to run a business, then you shouldn't be doing it. But if you're a therapist or you're a coach or you're a medical practitioner or whatever you are, why should you know how to build a website? Why should you know how to write an email series? And I think so there a lot of people hold themselves back because of that, because they're like, well, I should know how to do this stuff. No, you shouldn't. I shouldn't know how to be a therapist or a coach. I know how to build websites. Why would I overnight be able to do all these other things? So I think that was surprising for me, is just sort of seeing the space that people were in and how I could really support them in that, and how to get people empowered be like, no, I got this. I can run this business, and it's okay to hire people. It's okay to learn as I go. It's okay to not know everything.
You said a word, I love that, empowered people. You said you empower people. Yes. I'm reminded of when I did an internship at a not-for-profit theater company. So
I
tie
love
that
that.
in there. The artistic director, he said one time, and I've never forgotten it, I don't know all the answers, and I've never known all the answers. I'm not an expert in everything. I just surround myself with people who know the answers. And that's what it is. You focus so much on being a team, and I love that in all of your website and your social posts. You really highlight that, and I'm hearing it through what you're saying. So that reminder for everyone of we need a team, whether it's in our career or personal life or any part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can't do anything alone. I mean, we're so if we want to go way deep, right? We're pack animals, right?
Yes.
I mean, we're meant to be together. We're meant to be supporting each other. And yeah, it's such a critical part of it is to be supported by other people and to do that. And I think that was something that has helped me in my success is, I'm not afraid of eating the humble pie. And when I would get on a call with somebody and they would ask me if I knew something, I'm like, I don't know, but I can figure it out. I'm happy to try, but being okay with that and being okay with saying, well, maybe somebody on my team knows that, and me hiring people that, yeah, know more than I do in certain realms. And also being able to train the people on my team so that eventually, and this is starting to happen with some of my team members, they outprice me, right? Like I'm helping them grow their skills because when I say my mission is to empower women, I mean the people on my team too. And so they get to a point, I give them free trainings and all these things so that they can get to a point where they get to go and continue with their passions. And I'm a kind of a stepping stone. And that's great. I'm happy to be that. It's hard sometimes because I love them and I don't want them to ever leave me. But it's also this a really amazing thing to know that I was a step in their journey and I could support them into moving on to whatever their next thing is, right? Because I couldn't have gotten here without all of the people that helped me.
Yes. Okay, so next I usually ask about advice specific to being the good in the world, but I already am hearing so many elements of that just from what you're saying. And I'd love to adjust that question a bit for you because of a post I saw on Instagram that you had. And I would love to hear about your advice for showing up as yourself. You had a beautiful post about professional pictures and how nervous you were about them and maybe not thrilled you were, but you did it. And can you just
Yeah.
elaborate on that for us?
I love that. I love that you found that, and I love that. So because this is a video thing, right? I'm a plus size lady, and it's something that for me has been a struggle in a lot of ways throughout my life. And the way that people view and if you're not, you don't always recognize how challenging it can be to be in that space. And there's a lot of assumptions that are made about people and that sort of thing. And you don't know what goes on behind, the way I kind of look at it is we all have our stuff. My stuff's a little more visible than others. And that's kind of how it is. But coming in the professional world, there's a lot of conversation around like people get promoted. They don't get promoted as much if they're plus size or same as women, or there's a lot of that stuff that exists in there and they're looked at more as lazy. So maybe they don't have what it takes to support you in your business or do these things. And so there's some of this stuff that you have to kind of get past. And so also, I've dealt with a lot of anxiety and things like that. So I had gained weight throughout the years and things like that. And people hadn't seen me, they see me here. And so I had this moment where I was on a retreat with a client of mine who I met in person for the first time. And she was getting professional photos done. And I was like, oh my God, everyone's going to see my full body. And it was terrifying, but it was this moment of recognizing that who cares, and like there are other people who I saw showing their full body and they're gorgeous and they're beautiful and whatever size and shape and ability and, all of that. And so they inspired me to be okay with it and to push myself through that. And I actually got a coach and did work on myself and loving myself or accepting, couldn't quite get to loving before that, and that's okay. But accepting it, like this is me, and these are parts of me. And so how can I show up and continue to be that role model in another way? It's another level of being able to show and be honest about who you are. And so, yeah, I did a lot of work, and I actually printed out the photos and I put them all around my apartment so that wherever I would go, I would just see them because they were shocking at first. And also, anytime anybody gets a professional photo, like it's shocking because you're not used to seeing yourself and the lighting and the like. I have people who I would consider, beautiful and thin and all these things that were cried when they when they saw their professional photos, right? It's hard. And so, but what I did was, yeah, I put them all over the place so that I could just see myself all the time and just normalize, like, all right, and it got to a point where I finally was like, all right, I'm ready. Let's share it. And then after I shared it a couple times, then I wanted to talk about it because I wanted to, again, empower people to say, just put yourself out there and do what you need to do to get there. It's okay. It took me time before I was able to comfortably do it. And now I'm starting to use more of the photos in my imagery and in my graphics. And yeah, and I'm loving it. And it's not easy, but they're just bodies, and I have so much more to offer than that, So yeah, we have to just be us because that's who attracts us to us. To be somebody else isn't do it. And I've done a lot of great stuff. So why not put myself out there as a whole being,
Thank you for sharing that. And, there's too many people out there who feel alone with whatever, as you said, their stuff
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And, there's so many people with various things that are their stuff. And
We all
thank
have
you
it.
for that. Yeah, yeah. And I'm so glad that there's more talk around it and more just being published and out in the open so that people know that they aren't alone and that everybody has something, and just to be you, like you just said, be yourself. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And how would you answer this question? Why is it important to share these positive stories, these good news moments?
Well, like I said, for me, right, I don't know that I would have gotten to the point of being able to start to build that confidence and seeing myself and put myself out there without seeing other people, without other people sharing their overcoming of challenges and how they go about these things. And there's there's so much negativity, there's so much not great stuff that happens, especially lately in the last decade or so, right? It's really just grown that we forget that there's a lot of really amazing people out there that are doing really incredible things, and there's a lot of goodness. And so I think sharing these things reminds us that we're not alone, that there are other good things and people happening, but it also inspires people who are maybe scared to step out of it, who maybe are afraid to say, oh, maybe I don't want to be a psychologist and go to school. Maybe I do want to do this other thing, right? Like you can't get there without sometimes being inspired. So I think that's why it's important to share is it holds space and is a step for other people to get where they are ready to go.
Oh, Patty, and you have so many amazing resources for people on your socials and on your website. So where can people find you and follow you online? And this will be in the show notes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is bizmagic.co. So bizmagic.co. And then on Instagram is where, yeah, I'm sharing all sorts of free stuff because please take it and learn and move on. And it's at BizMagic Co.
Great. Patty, thank you. And thank you for what you're doing to empower women and just to share your knowledge with everyone else as well.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for what you're doing. It's amazing.
In taking classes over the years or observing workout videos, one major piece that is often missing: stressing safety and form. Additionally, group fitness classes are often marketed as being open to all levels, yet how often do instructors not give modifications nor progressions so that each participant truly can get what he or she needs out of the class? So that's why I created the 101 series, which take things back to basics with 3 separate courses: Bar 101, Pilates 101, and HIIT 101, focusing on safety and efficiency so you can maximize your workouts. Be confident when you step into a group fitness class or workout on your own. Be strong in your execution of the most common exercises, and be proud of yourself for taking these huge steps forward on your health journey. Check it out at bebykate.com. The link is in the show notes.
Thanks so much for listening to Be the Good with Kate Chericello. Whether you're listening on YouTube or via podcast, it would mean the world if you liked, subscribed, and or left a review. You heard about the good? Now go out and be the good in your life this week. If you have stories of good news that need to be shared, please send me a message. Thanks again, and have a great week.